We're gents. I'm going to pound out a quick video here about to meet a buddy for coffee. And apologies, my allergies are in full effect. So I'd like to answer a lot of the typical questions. You know, where did I come from? So I was raised in a very strict Christian home, and I'm still a Christian to this day, minus what I would call a lot of the nonsense. I'm not so concerned about what will people think, stuff like that. There's certain things I think get tied into every kind of group that someone might belong to that are, a generation or half a generation later, you could really just ask the logical question, why do we do this? This isn't in the manual, but it seems very important to us for whatever reason. So enough about that. Both my parents were very industrious and came from very entrepreneurial backgrounds, right? So it's no surprise that, school for me was not only not of interest, but not a good fit, right? I am very much a doer. I don't want to sit there and talk about it or think about it or, I like to read about it, actually. I like to read in my downtime and learn things, but then I apply them, right? I either catalog them, discard them, or apply them. So, as a young kid, I was taking on projects, trying to do things, and not enjoying school whatsoever. So let's fast forward. Who would have thought? I ended up going to college for industrial maintenance, and I just killed it. For once in my life, I finally went to school, and it worked. Imagine that. So that was very interesting. The first week, because I thought, hey, this will be good. It'll give some skills under my belt that are marketable and put something on paper here. And, the first week I'm like, wow, I love machining. I just absolutely love it. And it was a reminder for me because in high school I got introduced to machining and I really loved it. But for whatever reason, I just didn't kind of catch on to the context of, hey, like this is something you could pursue. Kids, right? I was busy skateboarding and snowboarding and mountain biking and, right? And also at the same time in high school, I was working as a butcher. That was my first vocation. I started out there and took to that very quickly, very, very quickly. I've always had a fascination with knives and always worked with my hands, so it was a very good fit. So it was a good deal for them. They paid me peanuts, right? It was a very good deal because I quickly, was training the new guys and, very much putting myself out there, whereas the full-time guys were, just punching the clock. So not only was I literally doing the heavy lifting because they're like, hey, this is a guy, he's a big kid and he's got a fresh back. Let's really take advantage of that. So literally doing the heavy lifting, which is awesome. I grew and I grew and I grew. It was literally, those lab coats, I was literally growing out of those and busting the back out of them every couple months. I'd bend over to pick something up and I'd just rip the back right out of it, like going up another size. So, for a young guy, that was really good kind of growth environment. There was opportunity there because nobody else wanted to do anything. So, like I said, training the new guys, doing the heavy lifting, which was, free gym. Basically, they paid, not even free, they paid me to exercise. So it was a bit of a hack there. And I learned a lot about using a knife in not just a professional setting, but at a professional pace. So, like a working knife, literally, not just like a casual kind of, I use it on the weekends kind of thing. So that was very formative for me. Any of you know me, you know that, that was a huge, huge time for me because, well, let's fast forward again. I ended up pursuing machining as a job. I got a machinist apprenticeship, and that was a fun road getting there. It was very poor timing where I was to get into machining, and I managed. It took some time, and I did the apprenticeship. And during that time, I bought a desktop CNC mill. So I was literally using that at home to make knives and other stuff, widgets of all sorts, basically anything you can imagine. I was doing that while I was in trade school. So, a bit of an outlier there as well. So, that was really another kind of pivotal thing. I was like, hey, I can make money at home. Why am I going to this job? So I didn't. I quit. And for a while it worked. And then a big recession happened and people stopped having disposable income. And that began the hardest time of my life. We very nearly lost everything at that point. It was pretty rough. Feel pretty bad. Put my wife through a lot of stress. We were just kind of starting the family thing, and yeah, I don't ever want to do that to her again. So that might be part of why I work the way that I do. So let's fast forward again. We got through all that. We ended up relocating, and I got a job. And she says to me, "Could you just sit still for a while?" So you can imagine maybe what it's like living with me. It's like my wife's asking me to sit still. Okay. I've committed to support you and you need some stability. I will do that for you. So I said, for how long? She says, 5 years. And I went, okay. That was painful. Very painful. But I did it. I kept my word. And actually, at this point, it's been just over 13 years that I've been in that spot. And during that time, I ran that little CNC mill, and off and on, I actually really burnt out at one point and took some time off that because I literally learned to hate it. And so, I think that was probably, in the end, it was good because I had to kind of change course and do more productive things. Sometimes just working isn't the answer. Sometimes you have to stop and realize what you're doing dumb or stupid or wrong or all the above. And ultimately, I ended up buying a bigger machine. We moved again to kind of more of a forever place and got a larger CNC mill and started building out the shop. After a little while, got a laser and a large tumbler and, stuff like that. And that has worked pretty well. The cash flow has been very all over the place. You get some exposure here on the internet, you get a huge influx. So yeah, that brings me to today. And I find myself at the point where I'm going to run out of memory on my phone. So I better wrap this up quick. I find myself in the place where I need to focus again. So I'm going to fix the things that I've let slide, like my fitness and my training. So the next videos will touch on that. Thanks for listening.